I'm hoping that we can spend the next hour or so just having like a chill vibe, just having like a conversation. Nothing over the top.
Yeah, no problem. It's pleasure is all mine, honor is all mine, to be honest.
In today's episode of Art Life, we're honored to sit down with Shammah Godoz. I have known Shammah since our time as undergraduates at Federal University of Technology, Mina, where we're both one-time executives at WWJD, a social club for young adults. Our conversation today is centered around books and how literature is the driving force for positive and social change in the society. If time permits, we will talk about food, customer service, marketing, and UI UX design. Tama, welcome to Art Life.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And art life is nice. Like I love what you've done with the place. Oh my God, it's nice. Nice to be here, Silas. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks. So just for the people listening, as a background, I had asked Shama for seven impactful books, and he gave me a list and of that list, I want us to talk about literature from there,
Yeah.
and then can cross-pollinate ideas. So, Shama, to start us off, the first question I had was that when you mentioned that books have played a big role in your life, of the seven books you shared with me, what is your favorite out of all of them?
Hmm. The thing is that so let me pick a favorite that I will not feel judged, that I will not judge myself for later. The favorite would be it's still going to be the English patient because I don't know by quantity, the amount of times I've read that book and how far I am willing to go far. How far I'm willing to go if somebody says the book isn't that great, that it's boring. I think it would be the English patient. That's the one that I would say it literally set me on this current path I'm on. So yeah, English Patient by Michael Ondaatje.
So, what was happening? What was going on in your social life or in your like personal life, or was it work or your lifestyle? What was happening? Why, when you first read the English fiction, why did you have such a hold, and why does it keep having such a hold on you?
So the around that time when I was doing with the English Patient, I I just come fresh off a heartbreak. Yes, because there's nothing that changes my life as much as heartbreak. I'm so sorry. So and at that time I think, but it wasn't just that. My heart was just not just broken by, a lover, it was also broken by the schooling system. So I thought I was a certain kind of person. Then I realized I wasn't that kind of person. And then I needed to form like a new identity. And that's when I started getting into literature. I had this friend, TJ Benson, and he started giving me books to read because he was a writer and he said that I could write. And I was like, okay, so what do you have for me? And then he started giving me books to read. And then he gave me the English patient that I got from another friend. I will name drop him. That's David Ishaya, because those are like my two guys. So, and they were raving on about the book. And then I read the book and then I realized that, oh, okay, there's something here. I read the first chapter more than 27 times because I just could not get enough of, just the way he started the book and how how Michael Ondaatje really went straight and just, it was another level of literature that I had not seen because I had read stuff, I had read Mills and Booms, like every other teenager my age. I had read like the Chimamandas, books just came, but that one really transformed me. It was when I looked at all the things I was writing and I was like, I want to do this literature thing for real. I want to really be able to not just make somebody feel that way, but be able to write a story that feels like, it is taking a cross-sectional look at something in society. So I think that's that for short.
Interesting that you talk about identity. In my kind of like work, I try to talk about letting go of an identity, but you said, were you in the process of finding and letting go of a particular identity, or did you find an identity in the English patient that has persisted?
Yeah, I think I would say I was building an identity, and the English patient sort of like showed me what I could be. Yeah, kind of like showed me what was possible out there. Like, okay, yes, I want to write, I want to read stories. Look at what somebody is writing and look at how it's affecting you. Then I think that was like the first time I read. And then the second time there's this character in the English patient, Count Ladislaus Amasi, and he was such a great lover. So much that he loved the dead body of his lover. I don't spell the book too much, but people who don't like the book now start rolling their eyes. So yeah, and I wanted to be able to love like that. I wanted to be able to be written like that. So, I sort of like took that and added it to my identity. And then just the personage of the author himself, George Michael Ondaatje, the way he spoke about the book, what he talked about preparing for the book, the techniques that he did, I was like, I would really like, even if I'm going to write only one book, let it be something like what he has written for me, and maybe not just for anybody else. Let it at least has passed through that fire. So yeah. For the Count that had lost his memories, we didn't know who he was. He was just like this nameless, faceless guy that has been helped by, several people. And how we know him is by the stories that he told and what he could remember. So, of course, identity has a lot to do with the memory, because if you remember who you are, then if you remember your stories, if you remember sort of like what you've been through and just how it has impacted you, you also have, and you can now interpret how it has impacted you through some whatever lens, because at the end of the day, identity is not just what you remember, it's also what you want to do with it. And so, we kind of like it's complete. So that's how I would say identity forms. And then for belonging, how does that identity now want to relate with the community? What kind of community does the identity, that personage that has been created, how does it want to relate with the community? What community does it find itself comfortable in? What community will make it flourish? And then from there, you can now start. Then it can now start thinking of, okay, this is where I want to belong, and it can now feel a sense of kinship with that community. So I would say that's how I would relate identity and belonging as related in the book. So nobody knows who the English patient is. The nurse is just taking care of him, and they thought that he was English, but now they realize, when he tells his story, they realize that he was a Hungarian spy who fell in love with an English woman and was almost killed by her husband. You get, and then that sort of like changes how everybody sees him, and then we start to realize that, oh, okay, this guy is not even like these guys, because he's not like them. He's not he's much older, he's a lot much wiser. We knew that he was, stronger, but then what this guy has been through is very different. He's kind of like already at the end of his story. And these guys, will see that you just contrasted that this guy has a lot to live for. And on hearing that story, right after that is when, would I say, everybody gets the zeal or the need to leave that pocket of time that they are in, because it's during the war, and the three of them that are with him in the house, they're sort of running away from something. After listening to his story, after going through that journey with him, they sort of get that impetus to want to go, and then they leave. They know a lot more about the war and that. So yeah, I think that's what I would say about the book. So that knowledge of identity, hearing about somebody's identity, hearing about what they have been through, could also like strike some chords in you. It could also give you like relating with somebody's identity could also give you like a new lens to look at yourself. You get, and if that person is in your community, because of what you have shared with that person, it's very possible for you to, would I say it is a spiritual connection or some sort of like mental connection that you have, that okay, now you know this identity, you've seen how you related with this identity. Your mind sort of does this thing where if you're empathetic enough, you can then put yourself exactly where that person is. And if you overthink it enough, you can look at yourself from where that person is, and you can see sort of like who you are. And then you get like this third perspective. So, I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, that's one of the things that the book helped me do.
I see what you mean. It's kind of like a filter, a lens, frame through which to like
Exactly.
run your
So
own life decisions and say, okay, it's kind of like intentional self retrospection, the kind that you come out and you're better than you went in. Man,
Yeah.
it's such a great book. No wonder I always keep
Yes, yes.
throwing up when it comes to you on books. Um, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So I, I thought we would talk about biochemistry too, and why why you're so interested in it. So the way I'm framing the question is, what are the two biochemistry textbook, and what sets them apart from each other?
So biochemistry textbooks. There's the Harper's Medical Biochemistry, and then there's the God of all biochemistry textbooks, which is Leninger's Biochemistry. I think I read Harper's end to end. I don't remember anything inside because once I just saw the chemical structures, I just I just read and I skipped. I didn't put it in my head. I wanted to read because I wanted to be able to say years later that I finished Harper's Biochemistry. But yeah, what I retained, I managed to retain. So yeah, Harvard's biochemistry is very medical, and Lenny just like takes everything about biochemistry. And for Harper's, biochemistry is looked at through the lens of how your body can, would I say, heal itself. So we're only limited to the things that to looking at the chemistry of the body, how it fights diseases, how it treats drugs, and how it deals with chemicals. While for learning jazz, we are looking at biochemistry from the entire perspective of, okay, these are chemicals and this is the body and this is what happens. So yeah, those are like the two greatest. And I haven't finished learning jazz because it's much bigger, but I wish it was the one I had finished, because in going through learning jazz and reading biochemistry, what I realized was that the body is an entire community. Yeah. So yeah, I'll just leave it there.
The body is an entire community. You know what I like about the body is that it's something that biochemistry, neuroscience has actually proven that the body knows how to heal itself. So if you've been
Yeah.
working really hard, you just need to realize what your body needs. Sometimes all you just need to do is to sleep. And once you sleep, the neurochemistry, the body restores itself to homeostasis. And for somebody who's going through like a really rough time, one thing they can do is like mindfulness meditation to become familiar with like the true self, to
Yeah.
put a distance between now and whatever happened. So like some people have reported, according to Dr. Judy Spencer, of doing like meditation 3 times a day, when they relapse. But people who are advanced meditators, you can see the difference it makes in their health and well-being. But yeah, neurochemistry is something I'm super interested in. And
Yeah.
for you personally, I didn't want to spend too much time on this one, but what makes them both so good? What is it about neurochemistry that keeps that that even after reading all those books and now that I have all the bragging rights for having read this book, the wisdom you've gained from that process, what um what makes them so good?
So just knowing, first knowing that the body is a community, and then knowing some of the processes, not all, first makes me appreciate that, okay, this thing is complex. And then I respect my body more. Yeah. Because I respect my body more. Let's move on from that thought. And then when it comes to neurochemistry, because of how delicate and how very easily, like just one thing, just if one thing, maybe just one major hormone, just starts to misfire, how it slowly snowballs into something else. That, first makes me believe that, it's like this universe, they engineered it, though. Because if you tell me that this thing happened just like that, maybe I don't know what randomness is. So that's one. Two, but when it comes to talking about mental illness, because a lot of people have been able to at least just look at the neurochemistry of it based on the biochemistry background I have, and I've been able to at least explain it to people so that people will know that, okay, it's not madness. This is something that is real, that, might actually even just start to happen to you if you make like the wrong decisions. Because maybe, maybe you start taking something that messes with your dopamine. Before you know, in the next 5 years now, like this, you start to show some symptoms of ADHD because your receptors are not firing well. And then, so it has given me that appreciation. 3, when it comes to like dealing with, would I say fake health news, and somebody tells me something, it's very easy for me to just retreat to the amount of biochemistry that I have read and say, okay, I don't think this is possible because this might mess with this might mess with this. Because after reading the book, it became a little bit instinctive for me to just know that this is not right. I'm able to follow what experts are saying. Yeah, so it really just made me, it wasn't just even in the body, it helped me understand that, every complex system has specific, would I say, reactions, specific things that must happen for that system to exist, for its processes to move. And, if you know those systems, if you know those reactions, you know those relationships between those components, you might actually be able to, I don't want to say be in community with the system, but you might actually be able to understand that system at a level where you might actually just be able to fix it. But come what may, or maybe create a specific effect. So yeah, I know I sound like somebody that does drugs now, but basically that's what some drug people think. Yeah, just my brain, I'm feeling depressed today. Oh, maybe this one, my serotonin is low, and then you do something that boosts serotonin. Oh, my memory, I cannot
I know
remember
what you
things,
mean,
and then you
right?
go and
Like
drink things. So yeah,
people who get really serious about like drug use and stuff like that, because it is easy to become addicted to anything. Like
yeah,
somebody can become addicted to drinking soda. Like it's possible. I don't want to name names, but somebody can become addicted to literally anything. And the neuroscience of things is really interesting. I'm kind of like an not biochemistry, more like neuroscience. So I listen to somebody like Andrew Huberman. He's a neuroscientist. I listen to like some of these people, someone like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who talk about everything from neurochemistry to behavior change and the whole lot. But that is as much as to go through. Yeah, maybe I should read one or two of these books. I'll put it on my list. What is it about Shakespeare?
only
And
the only the
what's the title of the book?
oh, okay, yeah, the title of the book on Shakespeare, Spilling the Beans on William Shakespeare. So I think Shakespeare, kind of like the father of English literature, because a lot of the English that we use now was kind of like formed by Shakespeare, because he was just this guy who everybody used to just go to watch what he used to do. So it's first his manipulation of the language that I love about that, and that's why I like being a writer, because you are interacting with language in a tactile manner. Like you can twist and turn it. Like there are some things that I will say, and somebody look at me and say that's wrong grammar, and I'm like, it's not. If you look at it this way, because I'm not just looking at just the lexics and structure. You now start looking at words from when they are still ideas, which is a really powerful thing, because you can now translate that into, like, especially when you're learning other languages. It's not very easy for you to translate that into other languages. You're not able to find connections between languages, and then, in your head, you can now sort of learn languages faster, or that's how I feel. It works for me. So Shakespeare was interacting with English at that level, especially when he was telling his stories. And yeah, that's what I saw at Spilling the Beans, and, with all of the other things I read about Shakespeare.
Yeah, language is so powerful. I mean, like, and the first time you told me about this book, I think we had a conversation about the miracle worker and Helen Keller, and
Yeah.
how it was not until Anne Sullivan, her instructor, taught her how to use the language, was she able to communicate with everybody and be understood. It also opened up an avenue for her to create an identity, for her to feel a sense of belonging and to feel
Yeah.
like she was loved more, So language is a very key structural thing, and your ability to be able to tell stories, to paint visual images with just the use of words. I think that's what sets like really good poetry apart. So
Yeah.
for someone like a David White.
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow any of his work. And for David Ishaya, it's interesting because David Ishaya is in Australia now. I think he's in South Australia. We were supposed to meet with actually David Ishaya up again. Maybe we should talk about something. Mm. But yeah, 100%. I think like Shakespeare is one place to go to if you really love the English language. And there's a theme here, right? Like we're seeing the English version, we're seeing Shakespeare, spilling the beans. Well, you really do love English, I guess.
Well, it's kind of, yeah, it's the only language that I can use. It's a language that I am most efficient in communicating with. So, yeah, that's it. I think if that's what I'm trying to do with, I try to do it with my language, but we don't have enough literature for us to like interact with very complex concepts. So, even when I'm hoping to translate my book, because I realize that we don't have enough colors, really, because all we know is just red, green,
Yeah,
black,
language.
white. Yeah. But we know green because we live in the forest, So after that,
But you're
how?
also learning French.
Oh,
So you're opening up the
yeah.
colors for yourself.
Yeah, I'm open. Yeah, I'm also learning French too. Oh, yeah, and that's something I think I can do. Yeah, so that's why I'm also like going very hard with French, because I want to see if this love I have for English, what I'm able to do with English, I can translate it to French and then probably like interact with that literature. I actually want to write a story start to finish in French, and also do that start to finish in my language, just like be able to create literature in these languages. If what I think about languages is true and how I feel about languages is true and the technology I think languages are is true, okay, fine. I want to test that across all of the languages that I can learn in my life. So,
Terrible. Yeah. Yeah, I love languages too. So, languages is just communication is the people who are super communicators, and I should get this book. I think it's a book by Charles Duhigg, Super Communicators. It's just the importance. He spoke about like his book was on the power of habits, which is actually super interesting. Habit is something that habits and routines is something that my quickly becoming my lifestyle recently. I'm talking a lot more about it, but more to come on that. Now, what love without end? How do you love without end? Who's the author of Love Without End?
uh, Glenda Green. She's an artist. I've forgotten where she lives because I'm not touching that book again.
It's your favorite work of art. Why?
Yeah. Okay. So, um, yeah, because right after I read English Patience, then I now stepped into Love Without End, and the book sent me on a journey where I was just like walking around, and I was just sharing this love that I had and trying to find the end. Because I mean, the argument she made in the book was that if there's anything that is abundant in this life, first everything is abundant. That's what she says. I'll just have to open our eyes and see the abundance. Blah 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 blah. Very 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 very. Will I say new spiritual kidney that a lot of cynics like to fight. And then she says that if there's anything that is abundant, like says you accept that's abundant is love. And I took that because almost every story I have read, even when there's anger, in fact, I think love as a concept is kind of like what helps us connect with each other, because for you to connect with something, you have to be able to, let's say, give a part of yourself to it in order to understand that thing. So, and that's kind of like what is consistent with love, that sacrifice. So that book set me on the journey where I was just sacrificing things just for the plot. So, I'm afraid that if I read it, I'll do that again. And after a while, I kind of like disagreed with the concepts in the book, because I was like, how would you say love is abundant when there are some people how you say love is abundant and all powerful when there are some people that can actually deny love? But yeah, so I guess if I go back to the book, maybe I have to answer that question, because that's an argument I keep having about, is love really the most powerful emotion? Why can people give it their own definitions and work with it? So yeah, that's another thing that I haven't dealt with in my head. Yeah.
I mean, love is just, as a Christian, the Bible says it all comes down to love. You can't say you love God if you don't love your neighbor. So love is a very important thing. And is there love without end? Is love abundant? I'm kind of like new spiritual. You say new spiritual, right? I don't see new spiritual, but I believe in abundance and overflow. I believe in overflow that unless you start thinking of abundance, you don't get that abundance. And to be what I mean by that is to bring it home. I talk about emotions of fulfilled desire a lot. I talk about emotions of fulfilled. What that simply means is that yes, I'm looking forward to getting a promotion, but I can't wait until I get that promotion before I feel like I deserve a promotion. Like I have to be feeling that promotion. I have to be experiencing being in the position of that promotion. And then when the promotion comes, it's like, welcome. As opposed to you're expecting a promotion and then you're dealing with negative emotions like anger, which can be a really good fuel. But the thing is that the shelf life of anger is you can't catch the bottle, right? You can bring it up, but it's not sustainable. So how do you turn that around? And yeah, I do believe in the abundance of the in the abundance of love, I guess, if I sort of like put it side by side with like emotions of fulfilled desire and love.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I feel validated. Okay, then maybe I can go back and read the book again because the ideas there are kind of like I love it so much, but I don't know. Reality just has this way of
What
breaking
about
you,
it
man.
scares you?
I'm just scared that it would put that maybe like if I actually really if I continue to internalize what the book said, one, I'm actually become a mad person because when I read the book, I still just want to just still go out and love people, and two, I don't think the world is safe enough for me to continually sacrifice myself. I might,
Mm,
I might be nice, but I'm kind of like not Jesus Christ. I mean, that guy kind of needed the power of his father to do what he needed to do. So I was
yeah.
afraid because, and ideas really, I am powered by ideas. So, you know, that's what about the book scares me. But it was very, very foundational because how I came to the book was not because I was even looking for a book like that. There was stuff about physics that I was interested in, about like how the world was made up of and what atoms are, that I just read like a line, and then I just ordered the book around that time when I could get it. So maybe if I go back to the book, I'll go back for the physics and not the philosophy. Yeah, yeah. But it's still one of my all-time favorites.
That's really
All my all-time
interesting.
favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like self-sacrifice. Some people don't agree with this. Like I was speaking with somebody and they were like, the job of a man is to self-sacrifice. But I also agree that self-sacrifice leads to content. Because self-sacrifice means like you no longer care about your own needs and you put everybody else before yourself.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a dream. One day you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm not living my life. I'm actually in a dream and I need to change things. That's
Mhm.
that's what I that's how I think about self-sacrifice.
Uh, the thing is, self-sacrifice, as someone has told me in an argument before, only works in a utopia if everybody else is doing it, or if enough people are doing it to create the kind of environment where it is profitable. And that is what I will call community. Because if I'm sacrificing myself, I am not thinking about me, I'm thinking about someone else. If that person too is also not thinking about themselves, they are thinking about me. And if we are perfect, it's kind of like this um, infinite loop where I am not thinking of myself, where like I'm being taken care of even as I take care of others. So there's always an entry, and there's always like my mind says out three. There's an entry and there's a leaving. So yeah, and to be honest, that really feels like how the universe is shaped. That's basically the concept of what goes around comes around. The universe gives out and it takes from somewhere. So that's, I think, so if there's going to be a perfect community, it would be. That's why if there's two people, that's why I like, will I say monogamy? Because it's much easier for me to look at the other person and that person looks at me. We are looking at only each other. Together we are unstoppable. You get? So that is perfect community. So that's why self-sacrifice works. But if we are going to be dealing
Well,
with
I
a
guess
case
so you're
where
saying that sacrifice will work in a marriage, right?
I
Of
to be honest,
course,
I think
that's what a
that's,
marriage
yeah,
is about. Yeah.
exactly,
I would say,
exactly,
yeah, I
yeah.
would say that's what sacrifice is in a marriage because when you're together with somebody, you realize that they know everything about you. There's nothing to
Yeah.
hide from them, and it's kind of like liberating in the sense that if you're in a perfect relationship, then you understand the other person, you understand their needs, their love languages, they understand your needs and your languages. And if you're out in the in like the shop and you feel like protein shake, oh, I know my wife would love protein shake. I'm willing to part with these hard-earned dollars and get her something that she likes. Or we need like we don't have nuts and fruits in the house. We need to go grocery shopping. You go and you get that without the person. It's in a sense it's kind of like self-sacrificing. But I guess in like thinking about the other person, you in turn like also do something nice for yourself. And it's kind of like you spoke about where it is a
Oh,
give and a take, but in a very loving and personal way. We could talk about love. We could keep talking about love and sacrifice.
yo,
But then the
yo.
madhouse.
Ah, yeah.
What
So,
what is the madhouse? Who's the author?
yeah.
What's your relationship with them?
The Madhouse was written by Tafa J. Benson, and is a brother. Think, yeah, the brother in every sense. Probably have the same blood at this point. That's how I feel anyway, because when not being able to see Tafa probably like maybe once or twice a year physically has really sort of like, would I say, darkened the room. Yeah, realizing that he's no longer here. And I just wish we had hung out more. But yeah, yeah,
Real
if
stuff
he's in
at the
your blood.
moment.
He's in Iowa in US. Yeah, I think Iowa State University. So yeah, very far from me.
Sure.
Yeah.
The madhouse. What was happening in your life when your friend TJ wrote this book?
So
And what was happening when you finally read it?
so yeah, he was the one that broke me into literature. So he's, in essence, kind of like my father in literature in a sense. So yeah, he was working on the book. So, and he always talked about the book. And so, like, I sort of saw the Madhouse written from that back end. I sort of interacted with the ideas while they were still, while they were still fetus, while they were just conceived in his head. I knew how the book was going to start. I knew the first thing that he talked about. And then, so coming to see that book in real life was like, oh, okay, you can actually write a book. And the question everyone was asking me was like, oh my God, TJ Benson has written a book. Why don't you write a book? And I said, everybody to keep quiet and leave me alone. Yeah. But yeah, so the Bad House is just proof that, okay, me trying to be a fiction writer can work, because for a long time, I did not want to be that, because I wanted to have money. I wanted to be able to go to the club and buy Jameson. So, yeah. So yeah, that's what the Madhouse did. So, and when I now finally read the book, because I had the book for like 3 years before I actually read it. I tried to read the first time, but I wasn't in that space. So, because I read the first chapter and I was like, what is he writing? This is not what I came here for. And then when I was now like in the deepest of tragedies, that's like I'd gone through this really terrible time. And I didn't have what to do. I think I'd lost my job. So I just started reading through my shelf, and I picked it up and I read it, and I could not drop it. And the grief in me was very, very willing to interact with the sense of loss and the idea of love put inside the book, and just like the whole drama of it all, the whole drama of life. It was not really open to me because now I was now at this level where these feelings were touching me. So that's where I was. And yeah, so yeah, I felt very seen by the book because there were a lot of ideas that he had talked to me about, that also internalized, that were now inside the book. So I was like, okay, yeah, these ideas I'll talk about are actually sort of like validated now that they have been written and people enjoy them. So it's not as if we're just in our house running mad with things that only us will eat. So that gave me the need to also like put my ideas out there because people are looking. So yeah, basically, and I basically back to the fact that okay, now I want to write a book because you know it has happened for Tafa, my father.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still, it can also happen for you.
Yeah.
Eh. So the creation of heartbroken people, you have, if there ever was an ambassador for a book, it is Shammah and the creation of heartbroken people. I would ask you a direct yet. Do you see yourself as heartbroken?
Yes.
And then please tell us who's the creation of heartbroken.
Oh, Sifiwe, Gloria, Undlovu. Ah, yeah. Oh, okay. I don't want to reel out her qualifications because she's just a PhD student. She's a PhD holder in post-colonial theory and feminism theory, and she's also a filmmaker. So, she's a master storyteller because translating visual to written, which is basically I don't know if she's very, and I would think she would be very good at being auditory because I've heard her speak, and it was her speaking that actually sold everything that she's ever going to write and has written and is writing to me. So I think she's a master storyteller. Reminds me of, she makes me feel like, it's okay, like it's okay to be a generalist at something, just keep doing it. And so she's a general, so I see her as a generalized storyteller. So yeah, Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, and then of course she has schooled at Stanford and Ohio University. So yeah, well educated. Something I want. Yeah.
So the book, what is happening right now, and why is the book such an impactful bit of literature in your story at this level?
Okay, so um how deep she went into post-colonial theory and feminism theory is something that I've needed to see something from, would I say, fiction from like a properly educated, point of view. And so her interactions with these concepts have been like confirmations because I think over the past 6 years, my closest friend and I, we have been talking about those concepts. And I usually call our talks the science of oppression, because post-colonialism, that's yeah, the oppression, that's the whole thing, that's the colonialism, and would I say, I don't say patriarchy, or let's say misogyny. Yeah, there are a lot of things linking them, and then there are a lot of things because all forms of oppression, they are linked. It's basically the same playbook. It's just that there's always the prime, who considers themselves prime, and then they consider the other people the other, which is a word that if you were used, and I was like, okay, you are speaking my language. So yeah, that book is really critical. I would say it's critical to understand, to seeing, just how well this thing is played, and why, and most of all, why it is so effective is because of the perspective it comes from. It comes from the perspective of the anonymous woman, whom, like, nobody knows the anonymous woman, basically, in society. Like, first,
There's
I
an
don't want to say,
anonymous woman in the book.
yeah, that is who narrates the story. An anonymous woman simply doesn't exist in society. So coming from that, it's like now all of the weights of oppressions that you've seen. So first she's anonymous, and then she's black, and then so she's carried, like, you're looking at oppression from permit me to use this word, from the anus, and you are seeing all of the shit. So that is what I saw in that book. So yeah, if you are studying oppression, especially in the African context, and you want to know how how it feels for women, that is the book that you can start with. It's trauma porn done perfectly. It's trauma done perfectly. No notes,
I'm
chef's
upon
kiss.
doing
I'm waiting for
perfect.
book two.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for book two.
Incredible. So it's more like a commentary on society and just feminism, not just, like a lot of times we've heard people talk on behalf of and support the women. If those people are men, it has always been seen as, oh, these guys that sell out, they are trying to be feminists. But I guess the themes I'm getting through from what you said about the book is that it is about commentary on women and their position in society, being told by somebody that doesn't exist in the society. Why doesn't she exist in the society? What is it about
Uh,
this persona or the
okay,
character?
okay, so it comes from, I think, is it the concept that the person's voice who is the most silenced is would I say, a black African woman. Like nobody really pays attention to her. So that is why she's anonymous. And if you look through, according to, like, most of the academic research, one of the things that I agree with is that most of the, would I say, when we are making things for society, they are kind of like the last to be considered because they are almost not anywhere. Because first, there's the intersection of the fact that they are dark skinned, and the whole white supremacy thing has really edged them out of there. And then they also suffer another kind of oppression where they are women. And then there's now also the disenfranchisement of Africa. So, when somebody is making something, they are less likely to think about the Nigerian woman selling akara on the streets, unless if they are making something for her. Like, she's usually not in the conversation, but thinking of, the high-powered people and stuff and stuff and stuff. So yeah, that is why she's an anonymous woman. She exists, but in societal context, nobody's thinking about her. So she feels anonymous. She doesn't have a name because nobody's calling her name. They are seeing her as something that is probably like just there as a feature or something that they can use. And we'll see how that happens to our narrator throughout this book, how she's only seen when she's being used or when she throws a tantrum. Other than that, she's just somebody that they just put up in the attic.
What does this sound like for us in the workplace today? A lot of people finding themselves, like, is there like some sense of, is there a bit of commentary on like what's happening in the workplace, in the sense that some people feel stuck in their jobs now and they feel like they have to do this particular thing because they have an identity to maintain or they have bills to pay, when in the long term they can still see that what they're doing doesn't improve their story in any way. Is this story a commentary on so many people who are, for whatever reason, for sex, for skin tone, for opinions, are being forced to stay in jobs, in roles that no longer serve them because of the circumstances they find themselves, they need to stay in there? Why can't they just come out?
Yeah. Actually, if that is kind of, I would say, if that is kind of like wherever the reader is at, I think they can make those connections because the anonymous woman plans her escape and she actually escapes. And nobody sort of like expected her to escape. So yeah, that is actually really a story about also like an escape and what she did to do escape. Of course, it's fantastical because of course she goes to a castle and all the staff, they're somehow supportive. But in a way, it's also like a sort of playbook in the sense that, the first step to stepping out of whatever situation you feel stuck in is to first leave the physical environment. If you can do that, then, a lot of the journey has been done because it means that you now have the opportunity to find people who will support you. And then if those people are supporting you, the next step now is just to make sure that the people who want to enslave you can never reach you again. So, there's actually that. So yeah. I would say you can make those connections.
Interesting. I feel like every time I see something, there's a connection. There's a piece, the anonymous man or another character I need that kind of, So I should have it on my shelf soon. Um, I know that you're interested in food and you've got skills in product design and tech in general. Do you find yourself cross-pollinating ideas between industries and books? Or do you see what does that look like? What does the creative process look like for you?
Oh, so yeah, cross-pollinating ideas definitely, because they even just come up even without me meaning to. Yeah. And what that means, how that means is that if I'm not conscious of what I am doing, I find myself doing nothing. So yeah, because I always do a lot, and I now sort of like have the energy to be tireless. It means, and then there's now like so just a little sprinkle of ADHD inside where I'm seeking pleasure from these things. Yeah, there's just that need to, to find stimulation. And I'm also very hyperactive, obviously. So what that means is that sometimes my life is scattered. So if I don't sit down and create routines, if I'm not conscious about what I'm doing, if even one thing scatters, I find myself, spending like the next 3 days trying to get my life back. So yeah, that's how it feels. So it's wonderful in the sense that I always have a lot to do. If not that, I have to make money and, try to at least keep a decent life and have a great standard of living. Um I would just be that person that just keeps doing things just for the fun of it, because it's a lot to do and it's a lot that I want to do. It's a lot I'm interested in. So yeah, I think, yeah, controlling finding, I've had to force myself over like the past 3 years to find a particular niche that I want to do. And I will tell you that it has actually been a struggle. It has been a serious struggle, because even as recent as last month like this, I wasn't doing what I said I was going to niche at. I was cooking. I was just walking all around the world, just cooking. So it's hard, but I mean, I'm still here and I'm making progress. I can't stop. Yeah.
So you cross-pollinate ideas quite easily, is what you're
Yeah.
saying. Like, you
Yeah,
could be on,
definitely.
like, I guess maybe I kind of feel like, for me, for example, I get inspired by reading a newspaper. Like I could be at a restaurant and I'll see an episode of the Korea, Ballarat, a local newspaper here in Ballarat, and I'll take an interest in it and I'll look at it. I have the stash of newspapers here. I'll see that 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 feeds into my product design in the sense that maybe I'm working on something and what I saw on this cover was exactly what I needed to uncover the next
Oh,
level for me to complete a refresh of some sort.
true. Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I find myself cross-pollinating like that. And well, it sounds like it is true for you too. So,
Yeah, it is. It
um,
is. It is.
the final two questions I had, one was about what your upcoming book is about. And the last question is about the advice to your 20-year-old self.
Um,
What can you
so,
tell us about your upcoming book?
s-
Title.
the current working title is Rainmakers, because, it's a fantasy novel where, a boy loses his brother in another world, and to find his brother, he ends up going on this journey with a couple of people and discovering a new world. And, yeah, that's what I can say. So I'm just trying to explore. I'm trying to explore identity, abundance, and of course superpowers. And and what it really means to be really special. Because I'm actually writing about. I realized late, about like 2 months ago, that everybody in this book is somehow special. And the more I just lean into the fact that they are special, because I was trying to say everybody is special. But then again, if everybody is special, does that mean no one
Then
is
no one is
special?
special.
Or does that really mean that, you know, being special is not like being just that outstanding? Oh my God, being special is not hierarchical. It's actually like intrinsic. It's actually like just you and identity. Because that's where I now reached. And I'm like, oh, because I'm trying to like remove that hierarchy. And to me, I think I am beginning to believe that everyone is special. The fact that nobody is special doesn't negate the fact that everyone is special doesn't mean nobody is special. Everyone is special actually something much more different. If you remove that hierarchy from it, it actually just realize that, oh, really, everybody is special because there's just something that you can do that nobody else can. And it's okay because, that's how the world is at the end of the day. So you may not get a chance to maybe express that, but if given a chance to express that, if put in that position and you accept that call, you'll be able to dig into yourself and bring out that thing and do it the way like only you would do it. So being special is not about like this standard that we've set that, oh, is what being special means. It's about the person and what they can do at that moment that nobody else can. So, I guess that's what I realized 2 months ago.
So
And
being
I've,
unique, being authentic. Is it
exactly.
more a case of being like that, or is it more hereditary and that you were born with it? Is it more a case of you can nurture and yourself and become more in tune with the voice of the true self, or is it like you're either born this way or you're not?
So you are first, sorry, yeah. So you are first born a particular way, yeah. And then you now have experiences. Like life just equips you with, I won't call them bugs, or I won't call them life equips you just, if you try to see, if you see everything as this is a tool that I can use to maybe shape this particular thing that I am, you realize that we are all, you are going to come out, you cannot come out as the same person because your experiences are not the same. Because even if there are two people at the same place, their biochemistry is definitely not the same. They are not standing in the same space. Just me standing a different inch from you gives me an experience that is different from another person. So even if we are twins, we sort of have the same body and DNA. Since we're not inhabiting the same space, we're not inhabiting the same body. They are just like we have inches of difference. That counts to make you unique. That's how like minute it is. Because even if you look at physics, a conformational change in one thing induces a conformational change in another thing because the whole space-time fabric and all of that. So that also happens too when it comes to biology. That also affects everybody. So yeah, everything actually is unique, which is why I like blockchain, because blockchain is like, oh, we can give everything a unique number and everything has an identity. You get, so I vibe with that idea very much. And then so it's now like, what are you going to use this to? And then there's now also the fact that, okay, you are now going somewhere. So it's like, I'm born this way, I can nurture myself this way, and then I want to achieve these goals. And with all of the factors involved in like maybe these three things, there's just no how you can turn out and be the same as another person. It's impossible. Unless if you want to, and if you want to, then that's when suffering comes in. That's the beginning of suffering. So yeah,
Mm, I can't wait for this book. That's very philosophical.
it is.
I want to finally, what would be your advice to your 20-year-old self? This is the last question. Come on.
Yo, don't stop writing. Whatever you do, don't put down that pen. Yes.
Wow.
If the thing is not allowing you to write, please and please and please drop it. You are not going to lose your gifts. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's not you are the gift. It's not about how much you know, because the confidence in yourself that if you pick up anything, you are going to approach it in the only way that you can. So, just don't stop doing the thing that makes you happy so that you have the energy
Mm.
to approach more things. Because if you are depressed, you're not going to have the energy to approach the amount of things. And then that just leads to more unhappiness. So, just don't stop writing, Shama. Just don't stop. Just don't stop. So, yeah.
What should I have asked you that I didn't ask you? What should we have spoken about that we didn't get to?
Oh, we talk about new school chemistry. Myself, one of my favorite textbooks in the world. Yeah, this one is for all of the chemistry students out there. That I like to tell you that the new school chemistry is the peak textbook, and the editing in that book is fantastic. And I
I
think I
need to
said,
do a book replay for us on new school chemistry.
to be
You can't.
honest,
I don't
if
want to
that's why
challenge
it
you,
is
but
the
you can't, right?
I can't,
No.
because it is the book replay. It is not the fiction book replay. I thought about that when I was naming it. So so that's what I just want to say. And like I feel sad that it's not required reading for secondary school students. That's all.
No, we do miss it. I did have a copy though. I think I did. I
Yeah.
wasn't too great at chemistry as far like I wasn't bad at it. I think what I was horrible at was biology. But I was good at chemistry. I was relatively good at chemistry to pass through. I was good at physics too, like but biology of which now I kind of like what I'm more interested in is just the behavioral science of it all. Do you get what I mean?
Mm,
Like
mm,
I I still nerd out on concepts, but I nerd out more on the details. Like I see something about ego depletion and I'm like, yo, where's the book? Where's the abstract? I need to read this abstract on ego depletion because my life depends on it right now.
yeah.
And so yeah, but yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you so much, Shama, for this time for
You
sitting down with us. I've had
you
tons of fun, and I'm sure our audience will enjoy listening
eh,
to and will enjoy your book recommendations. Thank you.
yeah, I do. Yeah. I just thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. I don't know what else to say because my mind is blown judging myself. But yeah,
Thanks for
it's
coming
been
out.
nice. It's been nice being on Art Life.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you.